recap the existing facility, how to keep the business running. We've got to control the flow of material, and we're going to increase manpower. What we found at the Vanguard installation is that it definitely increased his manpower. Through the transition period of installing the equipment, he's got folks that are putting product away and folks that were picking product. We still had the business to run on a day-to-day business, so it increased the number of employees that he had for a short period of time. Just want to budget for that. You want to make sure that you've got that in the back of your head, that somewhere in there's going to be an increased cost in manpower before you start to realize the savings of the system. In the new facility, for Vanguard, it wasn't in a new facility, it was in the existing facility, but I think the point here is that if it's in a new facility, it's out of sight, out of mind. You're running your day-to-day operation, and it's easy to forget that that's going on over there, so you got to kind of keep on that. You got to maybe assign a person that is going to be responsible to be watching that from your standpoint. So from a customer standpoint, have your own project manager, have somebody on board that is responsible for the job away from their day-to-day activities, because it will take a lot of time. Just watching what's going on, making sure installation's happening, checking with local agencies, all that kind of stuff, working with the integrator is going to take time, and they can't do their full-time job and be the project manager internally. So the construction phase of the project we talked about, that's going to impact the day-to-day operations. If you are trying to do this in an existing facility, plan for that. Plan for you got installation crews there. You've got folks that are not part of your everyday operation. If you're in an area that has high security requirements, high value product, and you may have to assign security people if you're in an operation like that where you've got to have security there and that kind of thing. So just thoughts that have to be taken into consideration when you're trying to bring this into your existing facility. Staging of material is always big because the stuff is going to take up lots of space. So you got things to kick around of where to put stuff as it comes in, who's going to receive it, who's going to unload the trucks. Is the installation crew there yet? And if they're not there, are your people capable of unloading trucks and receiving material in? So just things to kind of throw out there for thought. Who's going to train the new employees? Is that going to be the integrator's job? Is that going to be a project between the two of you? How are we going to bring these folks up to speed on the new equipment? If you involve them right from the very beginning of the project, and you have them involved in the design of the system, they're going to have some buy-in. They're going to be excited about getting involved in this. Takes a lot of time. It takes time away from the day-to-day operation. You want to set that up to be on a Saturday or a Sunday type of thing where you bring them in and you feed them and you run them through the process and the equipment. It's a change of life for a lot of these folks. So they're used to doing things with paper and a fork truck or a hand truck, and they're going to come into a system now that's got totes and conveyor and carousels or pick-to-light or RF guns. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can go on there. Just a lot of thoughts that go through their heads. It's like, I'm not used to this. So don't underestimate the time that's required to do the loading of the inventory. It takes a lot of time. So you've got all your products into a building today. Let's assume you set up a new building. There's a lot of pieces that have to go together with that. You've got to transport from one to the other. You need to pick it from the old facility. You've got to put it into the new facility. Do you want to cycle count when you do that so you get your inventory right the first time through? So you bring your stuff out of the old facility, you put it into the new equipment. If your inventory counts are off, garbage in, garbage out. So you should probably think about whether you want to do that. Do you want to count it where it's sitting and then move it? Do you want to count it as you're moving it? There's lots of ways to handle that process. There's going to be a transition between old and new. So in the process of loading up this new automated system that you've put in, or the pallet rack system, or a startup of a new building, you've got inventory in the old building, you've got inventory in the new building. How are you going to handle the customer orders? You've got orders coming in, you're going to ship 2 shipments. Do you want to consolidate those shipments and bring them together and combine them so that you're shipping one? In Todd's case, he's shipping a lot of military insignia. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but the Vanguard business is, you know, the stuff the military uses, their badges, their pins, their collar pins, their hats, their uniforms, all that kind of stuff. AES is one of his big customers, which is the military, Army, Air Force Exchange, I think it is. They require that their shipments come together. So when he gets an order for something, he can't split that into two shipments. He has to ship that as a consolidated shipment as one. So all of that has to go together. So part of the challenge that he ran into was figuring out how to get the orders out of the new system, getting the orders out of the old system and bringing those together at the shipping dock so he could do his electronic acknowledgments. So that all had to be received, all had to be consolidated together. Those orders had to be confirmed and then shipped as one package, and then he has to ship a confirmation for it. So, you know, bringing that stuff together. There's a transition period there. We talked about the extra man hours. So you're going to have extra manpower to get that done, and you're going to work lots of overtime. So that is another cost that you have to add into your integrated project because it's going to offset your ROI. So there is a transition period there that we've got to be aware of. Commissioning of the system. So you got to plan some time for debug. Again, it goes back to the finance folks said, okay, we've given you the money and we want to start seeing the ROI, you know, in 6 months. And it may not be realistic that you're going to have your ROI starting in 6 months. There is going to be a transition period where there's a learning curve, there's a training period. The employees are not going to be as effective and efficient as they will ultimately in a new automated system. But there's this training period, and that you're going to see a reduced throughput, which is going to increase your manpower or increase your hours for picking over a period of time. And that will start to ramp up, and it will ramp up relatively quick, but there is going to be a period of time where your production rate is going to be lower. Make sure you let your customers know that you're making improvements to the process. Let them know that you're changing out the engine in your car. Most customers are pretty understanding about that. If they think down the road it's actually going to be better for them, they're going to get stuff faster, more effective, better accuracy, all the kind of things that go along with one of these things. Items that get forgotten. You know, speaks for itself. You put in this automated system, it's all up and running, and then the guys from the IT group come out there with computers and there's no place to put them. So workbenches, computer stands, network cable, power drops, I mean, the list goes on and on of things that just pop up, things that just get thought about. So, you know, parking, just, you know, where this installation crews, where do you want them to put their trailers or their cars or, you know, whatever there is, staging of product. Just things to kind of put in the back of your head that say, you know, these things have to be on the checklist of things we need to talk about. Sprinklers is a big one. I can't tell you how many times that we've run into projects where everybody says, no, sprinklers aren't required. They're not required. We don't need it. We're self-insured. We don't have to have sprinklers. And just as sure as anything, some inspector is going to wander through, whether it's from your insurance company or from the local code guy, or the OSHA folks will stop in and they'll say, hey, there's no sprinklers in these things. There's no sprinklers in your carousels. You didn't sprinkle your racks. You didn't put them in the flow rack. And that's a big ticket item. That will add up so fast, dollar-wise, that you want to make sure you catch that one early.
Not just having placement. We ran into issues with the placement of our sprinkler heads and having to move them because the fact that they were blocking the product and whatever else they didn't be
Right. There's lots of options for that you know, you can take a look at high flow heads, you can take a look at all kinds of things, but you know, where they go in the system, where they get put is always important, and it's not always where we might think they need to be from an integrator or even from a customer standpoint. You might think, well, if you've got an automated piece of equipment and there's a motor, you've got to have a sprinkler near the motor. That's not necessarily the case. So that one touches people a lot. I know, you know, we're working on a project right now with a customer, and they said, no, we absolutely don't need sprinklers. And it wasn't, you know, one phone call later that the local guy says, no, that's not the case at all. You know, we have to have sprinklers. And so the customer is saying, no, we don't need them. But the local guys are saying, yes, you do. And so, there you are. So that's one that sneaks up on people all the time. And that's all we got, really. We could open it up for open discussion. We're happy to talk about whatever. Yeah.
I'd like to add to your list 2 items. Number one is roping off for your electrical board work. Making sure that area is secure, so 36 inches off, contact,
Yep.
fire barriers appropriately. Number 2 is that for some of us who are in manufacturing and are using flammable chemicals such as IPA, isopropyl alcohol, you're going to need to put those fire cabinets in, and that is going to be part of your pre-plan and your fire investigation when you're when the local fire department wants to come through, they want to do a pre-plan inspection.
Yep, good point.
They're going to want to see that.
Yep, good point. They want to see.
Also know what your sprinkler system is. Is it a wet system or is it dry?
Correct.
We ran into a couple of things we had cases we have sprinklers over as not should have been dry instead of a lot.
Don't be afraid to put up those NFPA diamond placards too. That's a big help to us for those of us who are in the fire service.
Right. Yeah. So some good points there for sure. For sure. So is anybody in the process of putting in an integrated system or thinking about it?
There's a couple of things that to your point about missing things. So I said the kind of employee safety, or ergonomics, part of the integrator as a sort of checkpoints for people to look out for. And then secondly, customer ownership. Where the integrator, would you suggest that you provide customer ownership to your customer? Not only if we go in, but for the duration of the asset thereafter, from an R&M perspective. For those that you mentioned, a lot of contingencies, right? And those contingencies need to be thought about earlier on in the game versus an afterthought, because you talk about ROI. Right? That will just blow out the path of water. Trust me, I've got a company that's big enough to know that that's not a good thing if you play your project on an installation, especially when it comes to something of this magnitude. So always think about finding up in advance of all these pitfalls that you mentioned. As I say, safety was a key one. But I believe it is. And customer ownership.
Yeah, I think that some of the things that may have not gone in there, although Tom did a pretty good job at the life safety, yes, it's where the operators were in regards to being able to get out and that kind of thing, and then the ongoing cost of ownership point here that wasn't on the presentation here. Maintenance and support of the equipment afterwards and ongoing is all part of that ongoing cost. So you've got
just from an energy standpoint, are they using low energy motors, are they using low energy lighting?
Yeah.
Because those are some things that to make us a little bit more upfront. For the long term, it's the right thing to do.
Right.
We're currently implementing portable radio. We've been in that right now, so our system the biggest challenge we have in terms of this most question is not only identifying the short term contingency plan, but the long term, establishing some milestones, because at some point we're going to hit a point of no return where you have to be committed to these systems you can't simply move on. So that's been our mission.
There's a point of no return. So I know Tom says apologies for not being able to be here, and hopefully he'll make the next one. So, Mike, that's all we got. Keep it open for discussion. Get you out of here.